Welcome to this short presentation on Karuta 3.0 UI functionalities. My name is Jacques Reynaud. I will have the pleasure to sort of explain to you these very powerful tools. So, this is I created a section in a portfolio to be seen only by a designer. It's really easy to check that. You go to metadata, and the only person that can see this section is the designer. So this is why I put it there. It's useful, but it's not going to be seen by any student or participant except the designer. I created four subsection, and I'm going to cover them, and they will each show you different possibilities that I will explain. Let's start with the types of presentation. You know how to add a document in a subsection. This is what I did, and this is what we call the standard presentation of a document. The label is on the left. The resource, the document, is on the center, and all the tool, the pencil, everything is on a box there with a shaded gray area. So I put comments here to explain: label on the left, resource at the center, tools on the right. All you know that is that there is a special menu here called display, and you can specify the layout, the view type as default. Of course, there are many others. This is what I'm going to cover. So this is the default. The document, the wide presentation, as you can see, takes the whole page, the width of the page, and the label is put on top, and the resource is right underneath, and the tools and the icons are over there on the right with no shaded area. So how do you know that? If you click on display, it says view type wide. There's also the very interesting presentation, which is called card. In the card presentation, it's like a box here. The label is put in a sort of title section, which is shaded, usually in gray, but you can change that. The resource is just underneath, and the icons, the tools here are within this at the same level within the shaded area. So, as I said, you go to display and you choose card for view type. And finally, you have the simple presentation, which is pretty much the same as the standard, except that you see the label is really flush on the left. The resource is at the center. The tools and everything are on the right, but with no shaded area. This is really great for specific information. For example, in a form, when you ask name, first name, email address, you usually do use that. So I'm going to close that and show you now that you can actually present the same information, but with display in two columns. This is very neat, or you can display it in any number of columns you want. This is very neat because it obviously make it very easier to look at the information, and we're using it quite a bit in the layout of the different portfolios. So how you do that? Very simple. You click on the display. You, of course, you choose the default in this case because I want the subsection. This is the subsection actually right now to be standard, but I can choose the number of columns here. So I choose two here. And this is the display there. Uh, I changed the background of the label of the subsection, uh, which is again fairly easy to do. You go to display. This is the label, not the content. The content is the underneath, the label of the subsection, and you just, for background color, you choose the color. And of course, I choose blue, so I change the font color and the menu button to be white. So this is it for this presented the columns. Uh, you can do much more fancy stuff with the columns, and this is what I did. This is what you get if you come to the welcome page. You'll see there are three columns, and it's kind of very fancy. So it's very easy to do actually, because what you do is you add subsection. Uh, Let me remove that so it will be easier to see for you. Okay, so you just had a subsection. So this is my subsection here. Uh, you In the subsection you add I did add an image here, so it's there, and I added um, a text. This is a long text resource. So again, and I've chosen here for this subsection, I chose to set the display. Yeah, we're going to choose the default, and it's going to be three columns. Okay. So this is why when you add a subsection here, it's going to be, if I add a subsection, for example, here, it's going to be placed right over there. And then I can add, as I did, an image, and then I can add a long text. Of course, you have to change the presentation because by default, Karuta present everything in standard. So I'm going to use wide, which is always, the preferred presentation. And as well for the text here, I'm going to choose the wide presentation. So this is what we did here over there. I did some other stuff. For example, for this subsection, I went to metadata and I removed the collapsible option, because when you put that, you see there's you can collapse the section. So I didn't want that. It's not very nice for this. For the display, I chose that the title, my profile, is going to be bold and it is going to be center too. I added the image and I added the text over there. The image also is centered. Or if you come here, if you go display, it's the resources. You have to be careful. For the image is the resource that is centered, the content, I mean the images. Okay. Uh, then, okay, I can delete that. And what I did is, I usually do that in in my work, is that I just I duplicated this section and another time, and then you can change the title and the image and the text. It's much easier to sort of make it uh, exactly like that. Okay, and finally, I'm going to close this section. Finally, I'm going to present the card option for the section. This is very useful. So this is a subsection with two columns, but the presentation of the subsection is card. So how do you do that? Well, this is a subsection here with card. So you go to the subsection menu with the pencil, and you just choose the view type card. And in this case, I added the row option. I didn't specify the width of the columns, the number of columns. I just set that to be general. So you click on row, and it's over here that it's going. It's when you add the resources here. I added an image, but it's over here when that you can sort of choose the display and choose the size. You see, for this image, I didn't want the image to take the full length, the full width. So I choose to put the image 412. And I added some text here. And the text I set to 8. The total has to be 12, the longer of the width of the page. So also I did things that way. So that this again very powerful because you can set up pretty much what you want because you can not only set as before the number of columns, which would be the same width, but you can sort of change the width of the different columns if you want. I played around also with the shaded colors. You click here for you can set the shaded. Again, you have to be careful. The label is the top. It's where I put subsection. So I put this darker color. And for the content underneath, I chose a slightly lighter color, which is kind of interesting too. So again, I think you pretty much have the basic information about the Karuta 3.0 presentation functionality. This is very powerful. I hope it's going to be useful in your learning and your design of